I think it's live. I don't know. My computer is very slow. Okay, there we go. Now we're live. What's up, everyone? So I'm working with not a new computer, a very old computer, and so please bear with me trying to figure this out. My recent computer, the computer I used to have, had a water casualty a couple of weeks ago. So this is all new to me. I'm working with the 2015 computer that's um, handling it's punching above its just because we have other stuff open that I'm trying to close. But anyway, wanted to just say hi, and we have an incredible guest that we're going to be bringing on later, but kind of wanted to connect with everyone because of there's a bunch of stuff going on in October. Obviously, October is Michael month, and to everyone, to all the fans in that way, and it's an important month to kind of all get together and celebrate this amazing person. But also, we have a reason to celebrate, but we also have a reason to get this person something that hasn't been done yet, which is a #1 for Thriller. So we're going to be talking about the Thriller Challenge, which is going to be exciting in that way. I'm also going to answer a lot of questions, obviously, because I know you guys do have a lot of questions. And I do my live streams now so sporadically that a lot of people um, either miss them or they want to know what's going on because it's so. Uh, as I spelled challenge, I spelled it wrong right now, and I have a neighbor that's kind of talking really loud. So if you hear that, just ignore that as well. Thriller challenge. Okay, so basically, what's going on right now? We have a lot going on in October. I am scouting and reading the comments as we go because I do know there's a lot going on. I know there's a lot you guys want to know. So I'll start with one of the most often questions I've been asked recently is what the heck happened to the press release that I said I was going to do on Twitter. And I was going to do it within a week or whatever. And I think one of the things that is really hard is I balance a lot of stuff. And I'm not even talking about stuff in my life in terms of I'm privy to get to see things before they happen in the MJ world. I I see things that are pretty much like a battlefield as opposed to just one city. And certain things I see, like I get ahead of time. One of the things was the press release, the one that I wanted to do on Michael's birthday, but then found out a couple days earlier that the estate was doing one talking about Michael's accomplishments and the certifications. And I knew that if I had done one and um, one of them would have been swallowed up, and most likely it would have been mine in that way because the press is not going to report two positive pieces on Michael at the same day. In that way, one of them is going to suffer, and being that the certifications, to me, it was important on that date because of what it was. I know I can do my press release pretty much any time and when it makes sense to do in that way. And so, unfortunately, I did disappoint a couple people, but at the same time, it was a strategic move. And there is some other press releases coming up. One being for, and I have to be careful because I hear things and then sometimes they don't happen as well. Just like my press release didn't happen, but I do know for the Halloween party there was going to be a press release. I don't know if there still is or not, but the for the Halloween party coming up, we were going to have a press release, a national press release. Um, and I didn't want that to be any confusion with my project in that way or to take any of the oxygen away. So I've kind of been waiting for that to happen at the same time. So I think November is a better month to because it's clear of all this Halloween stuff, especially now that we're doing the Thriller Challenge, to not add confusion to the equation. And we're all fighting for that same oxygen. So I figure November-ish would be a better time to talk about my project where it's out in the clear. Even though November now is there's going to be the Thriller 40th press release. So there's all these things happening, and it's a good thing because it's all for Michael and it's all positive stuff. But at the same time, I do feel like, not that I let you guys down, but kind of, yeah. I mean, I said there's going to be a press release within at a certain date, and then I said, oh, okay, well, I'll explain what happened, and I didn't really get to explain what happened because I didn't know the dates of when these other releases were going to happen, and I'm being trying to be transparent without giving away too much, because I also know certain things are going to be released as surprises in that way. So it's it's a hard thing to juggle because I don't want to seem secretive with you guys, but at the same time, I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm doing either. And that's kind of been where we are in that case. But I can guarantee you, you only get one press release for this project in that way. Well, actually, say one for the announcement and one for the release, or when a major company slash Netflix or Amazon picks it up. I would say so two. So I don't want to ruin that opportunity, and so I want to be as strategic as possible. I want to make as many people aware as possible. So that's kind of where I am with that press release. So that's why it didn't happen. Many people know. Some people on this chat proofread the press release a couple times, so they know that there was a press release. It was literally a matter of pressing the send button, and when I found out that the estate was doing theirs, we called it off. So that's kind of how that happened. And really, for those that don't know, the press release was just going to announce the project and kind of what's happening with it, and talk about that we're aiming for a 2023 release, which is still on schedule for me. Um, and I don't know what else. I would have to look at it again, but in terms of anything with this project is really hard because there's a lot of secrecy in a way that I have to be very careful of not tipping my hat to a media that doesn't want anything positive of Michael being shown. But then at the same time, I have to be very forthcoming because you guys believed in me and you trusted me with this project, and a lot of you guys on this chat donated, and you want to know what the heck happened with this project. Well, I can tell you that a um, I'm so grateful for the patience aspect of it because it has been a long journey. I think at the same time, the hardest thing for me is people have to remember that there were weird circumstances with this project. In a way, I wasn't going the traditional Hollywood route where I could just go to a studio and say, "Here, I want to do this project," and give away the freedom of Final Cut. There was also a pandemic that people now seem to forget that we had to deal with. And yes, other documentaries um, plowed plowed through those obstacles, but at the same time, I'm not doing the same documentaries that they're doing in that way. I'm not doing the same kind of filming that they're doing. I'm traveling more in that way. I'm going to travel to people to get their interviews. A lot of the people I'm going to interview are of the older age, and in a pandemic or in the fear of the COVID virus, that wasn't an option to interview them at that point. So there's just different circumstances. So while I'm excited about the other documentaries that are coming out because they are seemingly shaping up to be incredible, I'm not on that same path. I'm not there. No one's competing with no one in this way. I'm making something that is more of um, a biography slash. Here is Michael, and you're going to get to know this man and all the crap that was told about him, all the all the falsehoods, and you're going to see that, and we're going to expose that. But it's not going to be a typical documentary. I can tell you that, or a docuseries. It's not going to be typically what you see on TV. That's not what I want to do. I don't think it's what my uncle would do. He doesn't do anything typical in that way. So I'm trying to do something that would be innovative, something that would be exciting, that he would be wanting to do. And so that's kind of where the catch 22 comes in, and also do something we're free to do it, which is why we had to go after private investing, because it was something where I didn't want to be tied down. I didn't want someone controlling the project. I know that you guys didn't want that for me either. You guys wanted something that was truthful, that fought the rumors, but also that you can trust in that way. And so it's really hard to get that trifecta and also get Final Cut, but we managed to do that, and that's kind of the amazing thing. Took time, but we managed to do that. So I think that's where I'm most proud of where we're at, but also most proud of you guys, because 99.99% of you guys were super supportive and in that journey. And the hardest thing is knowing that it's delayed or delayed and delayed and delayed, but you're holding on to your morals, or holding on to um, that you don't want to give up Final Cut because it's your uncle's name, and you know what someone or a network's going to do if they have the opportunity to edit it after you've done it. And it is a hard decision, and I've had to say no to a lot of production companies and a lot of people ready to just to do this project with me. But at the end of the day, I remember the promise that I had said to you guys, the promise that I'd said to my family, and the promise that I've said to myself, in terms of I can't let my uncle down in that way. And I want to make sure that everything I do in this project, he could be sitting right next to me, and I wouldn't be ashamed. I would be proud. I would, even the tough subjects, I would be proud. It wouldn't be, and I made this joke with one of my friends. It wouldn't be one of those things in the movie where I'd be like, "Oh, I got to go take a bathroom break and leave." Well, a tough subject came up. It's like I want to be there as if I was sitting right next to him, and he'd be like, "Okay, I see what you're doing," and that's me in a nutshell. It's unorthodox, some of the stuff, but I can say that that was my uncle. He was unorthodox, and he took big swings. Thriller was a big swing. Everyone was doing the typical music video, and my uncle did Thriller. Um, there's a reason for that. There's a reason that still to this day, 40 years later, well, Thriller's not yet 40, the music video, 40 years later is regarded as the top of the top music video. Now, that's what I want to do with this aspect of it, with this docu series. I want this to be the definitive of, like, all those younger generations that grew up learning Michael, studying his music, seeing how great he was, but then not knowing him as a man. That's a crime to me. That's everything. Like, how amazing he was, but also his ingenious, but also what he had to go through. And yes, there's a biopic coming out. I'm very aware of that. But at the same time, a biopic is limited in terms of its time, its running time, and also it's beholden to Hollywood and that structure. So, me as his nephew, and me as someone that knew him my whole life, I feel a different responsibility. I feel the responsibility of what would my uncle want the world to know 100 years from now about him, who this man was. And us as fans, we know this because we've studied it, but the world doesn't know that. The media has made sure that the public doesn't know that. And that's our job. That's my job, is to make sure the media knows how amazing this man was. And I always get weird and sentimental about my uncle in a way, because I just think it's one of the biggest injustices is the crucifixion of him. And I won't go more into it because I'm starting to get a little emotional, and it's very passionate to me. It's very much important to me that this series, him, the legacy, you guys, because you guys fight for this legacy just as hard as I do in that way. And it's a team in that. And the biggest reward would be where we are in certain other aspects where the world doesn't look at Michael and these allegations and all this stuff. They've been put to bed. They've been debunked, which they have already, but debunked to the point where it's public knowledge now. It's not even a question anymore. It's not even this asterisk where it's like, but it's just people know this man and people love this man and people celebrate this man, which is what they should have done all along. So I think that's kind of where I'm coming from. Um, that's where I want to be, and that's what I'm aiming for. That's what I'm shooting for. I'm shooting for the moon in that way because that's what he would want me to do. He wouldn't want me to do something regular or normal or simple. We started. We started. I always thought that the docu series. Well, I always knew it was going to be more than one episode, but what I had put on GoFundMe was one episode. And I thought, okay, that episode could fund the next episode, which could fund the next episode, which could fund that, which is what happened with our tour in 3T. Each city funded the next city, the money that was made, and that's how I felt that that could be done in a way that we could be independent. But then it grew from kind of 3 to 4 episodes to 11 episodes. Well, seven first, and then we went to 11, and I knew that that was not a sustainable model. But I also knew that 11 episodes, there's no way that I could tell my uncle's story correctly and fairly in less than 11 episodes in that. And so that's been kind of the whole evolution of this project in a way. Um, but I'm going to ask. I'm going to answer some of the questions on there. I also going to bring Andrew in very soon because he's been amazing, behind the scenes with just certification, the recertification of certain, or just the knowledge of that aspect of it of Michael's albums, him and he'll explain it and talk about that, but just the mission of what Thriller challenges and why it's important as well is something that I'm not. This was not created by me by any means, but it's something very important to me. So we'll make sure we discuss the Thriller challenge as well in that. Um, okay, so Georgia asked, "What are your views?" Hold on, let me see if I can find the comment. Uh, this computer's a little on the slow side. So I hit the comment button, it hasn't showed up yet. Um, oh, okay, so I think so basically want to know like what is my view of like um the Thriller 40th doc that's coming out, and also like celebrities basically um that I call them fair weather celebrities that they basically ride the wave of whatever wave it is. If it's a negative, then they'll ride the negative wave. If it's positive, they'll ride the positive wave. For me, um, one of the things I want to be careful of, because it's a touchy subject. One of the things I want to be careful of is that um, it doesn't discourage others from being positive. Because yes, there have been some that are just literally uh, phony, but then there's others that really learn the truth, and now they kind of want to celebrate and share that, but they might be discouraged because of us piling on someone else, which deserves that pile on. That's one of the things why I haven't really commented on it because, and I'm not going to mention names because you guys know the names, but they deserve, a lot of them deserve the scrutiny and whatever they've gotten. But at the same time, I want to make sure that we as a community, there's some things that when we call them out on it, there's some things I didn't even know that now it's like, oh, you said this, and we're almost in a way bringing it back up because the general public doesn't know what certain people have said, but then we remind them of what they said, and it's kind of reminding them of all the rumors and all this stuff. So we have to be careful of how we say it and not, um, because people don't. read and don't research, so they just hear things. And so if we're in a way, even by trying to combat a rumor or hold someone up to a rumor, we still have now retold that rumor. And so we have to be careful with that. That's the only thing I would say in terms of why I haven't publicly said anything, because I don't want, I mean, we're moving in a way that I don't want people to revisit certain things that they don't need to revisit anymore. But at the same time, the docu series is going to do that anyway, and it's going to have to. Um, Let me see. Uh, Sorry, guys, it's on a little on the slow process, and I'm going to bring Andrew in soon. But I really wanted to at least talk about the project because and you guys, I know I keep saying this, but you guys are going to see movement very soon. When I say movement, to the point where um, this will all be forgotten in a way of how slow uh, we started. Because, as my uncle will tell you, as someone that always had his albums late, and behind, at the end of the day, no one remembers how well you guys might how late the history album was, or those albums, because they're classics, and that's all that matters at the end of the day. um, and I say that because I sat here in December, and I think it was last year, telling you guys that the tide had turned, and a lot of you guys couldn't see it yet because it didn't feel like that in your inner circle. But now it is. I think a lot of those same people that didn't see it before now see it, because now the Broadway play has come out, and you're seeing people that normally wouldn't have shown up to that event show up to that event, take pictures and all that stuff. Miles Frost won an award, a Tony Award. The Broadway play was celebrated, and so I think, in all honesty, it's the tide has changed. It still has a long way to go, but it has changed in that way. And you guys have done an amazing job of, when some ignorant person comes on Twitter or Instagram or whatever, you guys educate them right away and tell them, look, you're the one that's slow. We're not slow. We've already known that this, other documentary was phony. We already know that it wasn't true. You have to catch up with the time. So let me see where else we are. Uh, um, what else would I say? I want to reiterate, because this is very important. One of the things for me that was not natural was asking for money for the docu series. Go GoFundMe. It was one of the hardest decisions I had to make, because I don't like asking anyone for anything. Anyone that knows me knows that. And especially the fans who have done already so much for my uncle's legacy. It's the hardest thing. But while I was, you know, doing the GoFundMe, I always knew in the back of my head, and I had told certain select people what my plans were for, and I don't want to ruin them yet with you guys, but my plans were for that, in terms of people that had invested, and that's still true to this day in that way, because I do think you guys took a leap of faith with me, and I wanted to show my appreciation. So that is where that stands, and in a way, is I've never forgotten the people that have donated and supported this project. And I don't want to overpromise anything, but I will say that I haven't forgotten you guys either. And same thing with I sat here, I don't know how many live streams before, and talked about Jess Garcia, and the what she did for the community and for the projects and stuff like that, and that still stands, in terms of her being one of the people that a dedication goes out to, is because I never forget people that have helped in that way. And so that's just on me. That's something I'm not that type of person that I always appreciate those that have helped. And so I feel like this is a confessional, so I'm gonna change subjects on this. It's because this is a computer I normally don't use, so I don't even know where to look in that way. I'm looking at the green light, which is, I guess I know that's the camera, but it feels weird how I'm looking at the same time because my computer was a little different setting up. Um, let me bring Andrew in, and then I will still answer some questions because I feel like I didn't get to the questions. But let me bring Andrew in because he's been patiently on the sidelines waiting in that way. And let me see. I'm gonna add Andrew to the stream. Let's see how long it takes. And
Hey
all
guys,
right,
can I be heard?
yes, you're
Oh,
heard.
all right, good. Well, hey everyone, let me tell everyone, hey, before I give my disclaimer here, which is Taj did not put me up to this disclaimer. I just have to be as transparent and as honest as I possibly can here. I like my opinions are my opinions. They are not that of Taj's, any member of the Jackson family, or anyone else. Okay. Now I say that only because I can get a little off script, and I want to also address the Thriller 40 documentary as well from a sane perspective, if that's okay with you, Taj, here in the
Hmm.
beginning before we get into the Billboard and Thriller 40 stuff or whatever. But now I want to say I respect and appreciate the director of this project, Nelson, for being a black voice in the American media in a time when there were hardly any. I also want to say that you know I can also appreciate him being Jackson's first biographer as well, because he was the first person to actually write a biography on Michael Jackson, and that can be appreciated as well. Um, but however, for many years since about 2005, Nelson comments and feelings about Michael Jackson have been, I would consider, a little out of pocket. Um, when recently presented with the opportunity to retract his comments or to apologize, he chose not to for now, and that's his prerogative. That's fine. And you know, I want to say, while I fully expect this to be an extremely positive project, extremely positive, it's backed by the estate. There's not going to be any slander or anything like that. I don't want you guys to think that there will be, because there's not going to be. I expect this to be extremely positive project, but regardless of how good or positive the project is, to me, it will always be missing one factor: heart. It'll always be missing heart for me, that is unless or until Nelson actually retracts or apologizes for some of his past comments or what have you. Now, nonetheless, though, is it missing heart? I mean, I don't know. Could he have had a change of heart? That's possible as well. But what it boils down to is that could it be about money? Well, he works. This is what he does for a living. So like whether or not if it's for money or not, I think that aspect of it all would be pointless. But you know, nonetheless, I would like to say that you know um, with that, I will support this project regardless. Now, why I would support this project, I will, I want every Michael Jackson project, which is positive, to do well. What does this prove? This proves to the media that positive projects can actually do well, right? And if positive projects on Michael do well, then they might be a little less motivated even to do anything negative in the future, because we see where
Andrew,
narrative
real quick,
got them. Yeah.
Because that's an important point. It's not only that positive projects do well, even positive articles do better than the negative article. It's just the media is so slow to even they're such set in their ways that they don't even recognize that. I mean, certain ones have started to recognize that, hey, if we post a positive piece on Michael, we get X amount of views.
Yeah.
You know, but you're 100% right in that way. Is the media is just so trained, from the past, that they're not even used to saying something nice about this man.
No.
But the clicks and the views say otherwise in that way.
Mm. Well,
So I
we
just
see
want
where negative got them in 2019. Negative
Yeah.
got them pretty much, I would consider a flop documentary or what have you. And I mean, it is. They tried spending it, us, the media in the beginning tried spending it as, one of HBO's most successful documentaries. And I mean, that could be the fact, but fact is, they were expecting that project to do a lot more than it actually did. And it did a hell of a lot less than, I mean, it got what it deserved, let's say that. But ultimately, in order to support this project, though, I mean, we get a lot of talk, or we hear a lot of talk about separating the art from the artist or what have you.
Yeah.
When it comes to Michael Jackson bullshit. Here in this case, I will, on the other hand, be separating the art from the director, and I will allow the validity of this project to speak for itself. So I will be I will be supporting this project. I will be watching it. I will be spending money on it, whatever I have to do. And I suggest that you guys do the same. You guys do the same. And I mean, we are all our own individuals here, but I think that is the most sane response for that I can give. Sorry, I got a little off on topic.
No. That's a great point. I think the with my docu-series, at least I know, because you're a little more tolerant than I would be. I wish he would have been more positive now. I mean, he's now going through that journey in that way, and I don't know what his latest words were in that, but I can tell you with the docu-series, there's not one person on set that doesn't know Michael Jackson was innocent and doesn't believe Michael Jackson was innocent. Like
Yeah.
I don't have that same tolerance for the crew that's working with me in that. I can tell you the DP, the camera person, all the way to the person editing it. They have to be someone that, because it's their lens too. All these things, from the filming of it to the editing of it, it's perspective. And
Yeah.
and I need the perspective to be the truth. I don't need it to be jolted with lies and negativity and all that stuff. So for me, I'm a little stricter,
Yeah.
and just taking a long time to trust people and to get that trust. But I know with the people helping on this project, they bleed Michael Jackson in that way, and it's important for me, because I feel like if that blood shows up on film, it'll be it'll show that, it'll reflect that
It certainly
aspect.
will. Yeah.
And so that's how I look at it, because there's never been a second hinge doubt in my head growing up to even whatever they've thrown at me, where I thought my uncle was not innocent. And so I need that energy with me in that way, because it's going to be hard enough, and there's enough negative energy with the public and stuff. Now, saying that, I will echo your response. I always root for a project of my uncle's to do well, because in the media, they don't care. They don't go, oh, the fans boycotted it because of so and so and so and so. They'll just say it flopped. And it's like they'll try and spin it like Michael Jackson has his currency has diminished. They won't tell you the truth of why the fans boycotted it, or if they did or not. So
Well, let me say this as well, because one thing I want to bring to everyone's attention is that there was a certain segment of fans that actually boycotted, the Escape album or what have you after Michael, and the Michael album, and I don't want to open old wounds here, but we know what is everyone here knows what recently transpired legally with the Michael album and so on and so forth. But some fans carried that animosity, if you will, over to a new project. Escape was going to break records had it actually debuted at #1. Now, there's a whole lot of other behind the scenes politics that went on with the that went on. Someone in chat posted the name of the band that actually did get #1 over the album Escape there in chat, if you will. But also a good segment of the popular core fandom, like they just didn't buy the album. And like I said, I want all Michael projects to do well. And when Escape debuted at #2 on the Billboard, on the Billboard charts, my heart sank, because had it been #1, then Michael would have been the only artist from the 20th century to have a #1 album in the 21st century. Was in the 2010s, and well, we missed that opportunity. So that boat passed us by. That's why I say, guys, if there's positive projects, we certainly need to support those projects, or what have you. And I mean, we have to practice, the separation of art and artist, even if it means supporting a positive project. At least I will. You guys are entitled to do whatever the hell you want, but that's what I will be doing. So
yeah, and that's the hard thing, because I agree with that, but also I can see the other side where they're like, well, we don't want to reward something, because if I do support it, then they'll just keep doing the same thing as well.
Yeah.
So I that's always been my dilemma as someone that that sees both sides of something.
Mm-hmm.
And I also know that I by tweeting, I do wield some kind of influence in that, and I have to be careful with that. That's why I sit certain things out, because I don't want to influence people in that way.
Right.
I With Leaving Neverland, I did, because I knew the truth, and I'm like, I'm not going to let a lie just fly by. But there's also people's opinions and how they feel, and and their connection with certain things. But yeah, I personally, for me, and this is just me, I always err on the side of supporting something that is a Michael project, because at the end of the day, it's his name. Whether it's someone that I don't like doing it or whatever, I still want him to succeed, because at the end of the day, the general public won't even know who directed whatever or who wrote whatever. They're just going to know Michael Jackson was part of this, or Michael Jackson, it's about Michael Jackson, or this or that. So that's just how that works in that way.
Yeah.
I did want to say one thing, because one of the most asked questions so far has been, when is my docuseries going to be released? And I said it before, but next year is where we're aiming for. That's kind of been the sweet spot. It's right, there's like a fine line, because there's other things coming out and stuff like that. So that's the sweet spot for us, is next year.
And guys, 2023 does not mean January 1st, 2023.
Yeah, it never did.
At some point next year.
Yeah, exactly. It means, please give me at least that year, like, that part now, but it also is going to be where it's most effective too. And I'm not going to rush something to finish something to get to make that promise, but at the same time, I'm going to do everything possible to make that promise happen in that way. And we're geared to make that promise happen. That's why one of the things that we were doing during the pandemic was we were strategizing. We were doing, as I said, everything we can do so that we can get going and go faster. So, Andrew, I did have some questions for you too. While I have you here, because you're kind of an expert in certain things, and a lot of people don't even know, like, they know of you on Twitter and stuff like that, but they don't know really what I've had, the opportunity to talk to you in general on the phone and about Michael stuff, and especially when it comes to certifications and this and that, which is always fascinating to me because I always feel that is something. Any kind of milestones are always important to me because I know they were important to my uncle. If they were important to my uncle, they're important to me in that way. And so, first of something, or he's the only blah 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 blah. Those things like are antennas to me.
Yeah.
And we are going to talk about the Thriller Challenge, which is one of the reasons we did this live stream. But in terms of other things, let's talk about. And I did. Sorry, guys, I was late. It was the computer's fault. My fault. But also, I'm a slow copy and paster. But we do have questions in terms of that. Like, can you explain to everyone, because for this Thriller Challenge, and actually, let me start with this first. Let's start with what this is. This is where people can actually, find out about the Thriller Challenge. And what it is I think we should explain it first. Michael Jackson's Thriller song has never hit number one on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. It peaked at 4. A song that basically everyone will say it's an anthem to Halloween. Basically, it's the Halloween anthem, and it's a song that everyone swears, oh, that would 100% was a number one song. No, and the reason was because Michael's album had sold so much, and so many people had the album, but by the time Thriller came out, everyone already had the album, so no one needed to buy the single anymore in that way. And so it's one of those things that it's a crime to me that song, which is such one of his most known songs, hasn't hit number one. Uh, but also, there's an exciting part about, because as TJ explained on his live stream, the Kate Bush song is the oldest number one song in the history of the Hot 100, and by Thriller hitting number one, it'll be the oldest song ever to hit number one. So Michael will hold that record in that way. That'll be a talking point. But there's so many other things that number one will bring to Michael in that way. And as it should. Thriller was revolutionary. Not only the music video, but just in general, the song itself. I would challenge anyone to go through Halloween not hearing that song or not seeing that song danced to or something. It is such a staple of Halloween. And I feel like if the fans can do that for Mariah with All I Want for Christmas, if the Mariah fans can do that for her, then we as a community, the MJ fans, we can do that for Michael as well. And I do feel that it's not only doable, it's something that should happen in that way. And I know I will be doing my part to make sure that happens. But okay, now saying that, I just wanted to kind of give an idea. Now let's go back to the question. And it's loading and it'll come up. Yeah. So what is Billboard Hot 100 for everyone that's kind of.
Okay, well, the reason why this needs to be explained is because I believe that even to this date, Michael Jackson's fans are probably more international than any other fan base ever. So, like for some, America fans, like, oh, yeah, I know what that is. But, just allow me a moment to talk about it. So the Billboard Hot 100 is the music industry standard for keeping track of really how well a song is performing in the United States. The charts are published weekly by Billboard, of course, and the chart rankings are based on sales, both physical and digital, of course, radio airplay and online streaming in the United States. Now, the weekly tracking period for sales, which was initially, from Monday through Sunday, when Nielsen started tracking sales in 1991. That was actually recently changed in 2015. So now reporting weeks are from Friday to Thursday. Okay, so you know, it's important to to mention that here, because as we go along, you know, I'm going to answer the you know, the question, you know, when the streaming or you know, when the days for the challenge actually
Yeah, when the
start.
challenge days actually are, yeah, in that way. And it's strategic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah. So okay, so let me go to and yeah, and the funny thing is I didn't even know that because when we had music out, it was Monday to Friday. You know,
Yeah, it was.
and so like even I was like, what days are like it's so I didn't even know that in that way, and it does make sense. Um, okay, so that's another question. Does the Billboard Hot 100 count sales internationally?
Yeah, well, you know, as I stated in the previous answer, of course, you know, I mean, this is a United States type of ordeal, but it is important that people understand that, that, you know, this, although this is just for the United States, other markets as well have their own equivalent to Billboard. So, like, for example, in the UK, it's called the official chart, the official charts in the UK. And then in Australia, uh, it's called ARIA, and
Mhm.
that basically is just Australian Recording Industry Association. So I mean, and Brazil has its own equivalency to Billboard. So I mean, there are different, you know, like there's just like every country has its own Billboard equivalency, but Billboard itself is just for the United States.
Got it. Okay, cool. And then it's also important to note that why is it important for the international fans? Because I know if I was looking at it, I'd be like, okay, well, you know, shouldn't we be doing something for our own country or whatever? But the way it works in music in general, and also you have to remember, not only is the estate based here in that way, but a lot of the music industry um, looks at America as kind of American England, I should say, are the two that they look at, right? To kind of be benchmarks, which I don't think is right,
Mm-hmm.
but they
Mm-hmm.
do. And I would love nothing more for America not to be the benchmark because I think they have too much power in that way and they know it. But at the same time, it is that aspect of it, and we have to recognize that. So by Michael doing well in America, it helps the rest of the world. Releases that will come out will be there's more leverage for that reason of to talk to Sony and be like, hey, this is doing really well. Let's get a release of this. Let's do this and that. They're going to look at America as one of those equations in that way. So that is the reason, and that I think that even if you're internationally, that you would want to help and participate because I don't want to say trickle that because I feel like the rest of the world's just as important, if not more.
Yeah.
But you'll benefit from it. I should say that. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, how does Billboard determine the rank of you're gonna make me read the whole thing.
Oh, okay. All right. All
How
right.
does
So,
Billboard Hot 100 determine the rank of a song on its chart? TJ usually does this on our podcast.
yeah,
I'm
I
not used to
know.
actually reading off a question. But go ahead.
But now, so the Hot 100 is ranked really based off of radio airplay audience impressions. It's measured by the Nielsen BDS. BDS stands for Broadcast Data System. Sales data compiled by Nielsen SoundScan and both retail and digital, so physical and digital copies, and also streaming activity provided by online source music sources. But um, I know I can't, like, uh, whenever you ask me questions, I'm going to keep harping back to, Nielsen BDS and Nielsen SoundScan. But what a lot of people don't know is that um, they don't really exist as, all right, so they exist as an entity, but under a different name, because in 2019, Billboard actually purchased Nielsen, and now they're referred to as Luminate, Luminate Data. So both the Nielsen BDS broadcast data, which keeps track of all the radio airplay and all, and then the Nielsen sound scan, which keeps track of physical and digital sales, and that's actually under one umbrella. That umbrella is now owned by Billboard, and they're called Luminate Data. So now, nonetheless, though, it's important to know that they still use the same industry sales tracking tools in order to keep track of the various forms of sales there. So in streaming content.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next one. How does Billboard calculate sales, streaming, and radio play?
All right. Now I'm gonna be a little long-winded on this one because this is like, I want to educate everyone here, because the way Billboard does it is similar to how it's done internationally as well. So, but anyways, we have the Hot 100 airplay. So basically those are songs played on your traditional radio, 101.5 or whatever radio station you're listening to in your local area. Now, they keep track of approximately 10,000 stations. And it's composed of pretty much music from all types of music, whether it's R&B, soul, country music, and so on and so forth. But ultimately, they are keeping they are monitoring or they monitor these airplays digitally 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Legit, this is what they do. And then the charts are ranked by the number of gross audience impressions, computed, of course, by cross-referencing exact times that the radio actually played a song, and so on and so forth. So that is actually kept track by arbitration listener. What is it called? Listener data. So that's something else Billboard owns, basically. You don't need to know that term of it. But then there's the hot single sales. In other words, these are your physical sales. So the top selling physical sales are really compiled by data using places that sells physical singles. So wherever you can go, I used to go to Sam Goody when I was younger, and even more local place, B&T tapes or Walmart, Target, wherever you go, wherever you can have, like a tangible record or single in your hand. So, ultimately what we have there, is with this, what sales have been declining, over decades now. Let's be real, 3 decades now, sales have been on the decline, but really recently started to take a huge nosedive, of course, with the introduction of, the personal computer being more common in people's households, of course, streaming services, and so on and so forth. But, ultimately, Nielsen SoundScan or Luminate data, they actually keep track of this as well. And any singles that you, now, as this relates to Thriller, you'll be extremely, and I mean extremely hard pressed to actually find a Thriller single for sale anywhere. Because, as I recall it, the last time Thriller was even printed as a single, I think was 1984.
Yeah.
It may be 85. But, I mean, I got so much data in my head, I start getting things mixed up. But, if you do find by the way, guys, I want to make clear, if you find a Thriller single on the internet, whether it's eBay, Amazon, not a digital, but a physical copy of the single, then it's being resold to you. Resales do not count towards getting this to chart here, but it was important to mention this or what have you for Michael's future music, which might come out in some type of physical form, when it comes to his singles. And then of course you have your digital sales that are tracked by Nielsen SoundScan, which includes which goes towards the overall totals for the Billboard Hot 100 as well. Now this would include music that is purchased on digital platforms like Amazon Music and Apple iTunes. And platforms to purchase digital singles, of course, are increasingly dwindling as well. And I mean, there are platforms out there, right? So there's platforms out there that are lesser known than the two that I mentioned, Apple iTunes and Amazon Music, where you can purchase singles. But nowadays, even streaming is killing digital purchases as well. A lot of people don't see that. It's been happening now, right before us for for about a decade now. So you'll be like, you can still buy albums digitally, but trying to find a song for the album digitally, is a little bit more difficult. But ultimately, you'll be left with, again, harping to streaming. Now, speaking of streaming, that's the last and final component that I would like to mention here. Now, the figures for stream songs are compiled in a collaboration between Billboard and Laminate Data and the National Association of Recording Merchandisers. That's just that's all they do, by the way. So no one's probably ever heard of the latter, and that's okay. And I don't expect for anyone here to be dorking out over these facts or whatever. But nonetheless, they measure the top streamed radio songs, on-demand songs, and video on demands like YouTube and so on and so forth, and on streaming services such as Apple Music, Spotify, and Amazon Music, among others as well. So this, of course, is nowadays the number one way that artists are charting and also getting paid. Let's be honest. So.
Okay, this is a very good question, and I kind of wrestled with this too, just because we do know about Billboard and how they've not been fair to Michael with articles in the past. In general, a lot of the concern is but will Billboard be truthful towards Michael? What if they don't count truthfully to avoid Michael breaking the record? I know the answer to this, but I'll let you answer in that way.
Well, this is a phenomenal, I mean, this question is very thought-provoking, I'll say that. But I also want to point out here that, numbers don't lie. They just don't. And, while, let's say, Billboard might not, report on any aspect of, a record being broken or whatever, unless someone's breaking one of Michael's records, which, I mean, depending on what it is, it's not even impressive, to be honest. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a, Michael Jackson fan or whatever. Like, music records any music records, in my opinion, that has been broken in the last 20 years, it's just not impressive. I've not been impressed by it. So, numbers don't lie. So Billboard, they will, they have to, they have to actually, have Michael's totals, updated just like any other artist. And also, we know, Taj and I actually, we know a couple of, different editors at Billboard who, who does have Michael interests, best interest or what have you. So, while I wouldn't look at Billboard as like a monolith or, like a company that is, just like out to get Michael or whatever, I definitely understand the concern, especially after 2019. I mean, but then again, I have to tell you, I had a love affair with, some other media for, different reasons why I follow them or whatever, who also end up disappointing me. And I mean, these media companies are, they unfairly get called fake news or, whatever it is. But in reality, they are the most reliable news out there. It just so happens that, the way they handled, I can't even say the name of the project that came out on HBO, but the way they handled that entire fiasco or whatever, let's just say Billboard wasn't the only one. So ultimately I think that they will do what they have to do because that's their job is to report on Michael. So.
Okay, hold on. Here's the next question. Why is it important to get Thriller single to #1 on Billboard?
Okay, Okay, so this one is also going to be a little bit longer, long-winded as well. Okay, so Michael Jackson has 13 number one singles in the United States, which is more than any male solo artist, in the history really of the Hot 100 era, which started in 1958, the year he was born, and it continues to this date. Okay, so all of his 13 number one singles are purely based. This is impressive. This is the type of stats that impresses me. They're purely based on physical sales. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, like now I'm impressed. Now I, got a smile on my face because that is something that, I look at and I'm like, yes, but, however, since Billboard actually started to count digital downloads and incorporating streams to, determine the Hot 100, artists like, good artists, I'm not hating on any of these artists, but artists like Drake, Bruno Mars, Rihanna, and The Weeknd, they started to benefit from how much easier it is to chart on the Billboard Hot 100. You can literally release an album. Every single track on that album fills up the top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20 spots, however many. And another thing I want to add here, this is kind of getting off topic, but I don't like it. Artists are also releasing shorter songs because shorter songs can get more streams and then longer songs or what have you. So like if a song is like 2 minutes long, like let's say versus Who Is It by Michael Jackson, which is like 6 minutes and 14 seconds or something like that, then, like literally you're streaming it back to back. You already got 3 songs of a 2 minute long song, like let's say by the Beatles or something like that. It's all there. Anyways, versus, the one song that, ended 6 minutes later when it started to stream. But artists are, and it might not necessarily be them. It could be the record company or whatever, but they're completely aware of, these things that I'm saying. They know how to, take this to their advantage. But ultimately, if we can somehow manage to get Thriller to the top of the singles charts, it will further solidify Michael Jackson's position as the male solo artist with the most number one singles, in the United States, which at that point would be 14 number one singles. And also, it will, and Todd, you mentioned and you covered this a bit early on, but, it will also go towards tying the record with Mariah Carey for the most number one singles in 4 decades. Yep. And also, Thriller would become, as you said, Todd, the oldest song to top the Billboard 100. And Michael, finally, if we can even get it in the top 10, which would be an impressive feat as well. So, like, guys, if we don't get to number 1 or whatever, don't be like, oh, well, that was a waste of time. That was a bummer. Don't act like that. If we manage to get it in the top 10, more power to us because, ultimately that breaks another record. Michael would become the only artist to have a top 10 single on the Hot 100 in 6 consecutive decades, breaking his own record of 5 consecutive decades. So, he will only be.
Which is why this decade's important. Yeah.
Yes, it's very important.
So it's almost like if we don't hit the mark, which I'm always a firm believer of not even putting it out there, but even if we don't, our energy and our time is not wasted because if we hit that top 10, he's already broken a record or he's already extended one of his own records, and there's still celebratory stuff in that way. And so that's very important to let everyone know that, which thank you for mentioning that, because people might feel like, oh, if we don't get number 1, then it was all for nothing. And that's not true. Now I still believe we can't. So I'm just,
I do too.
Okay. So what can American fans do to help get Thriller number 1?
Okay. Well, this is an important question. Okay. Because I'm going to tell you what you should do, and I'm also going to tell you what you should not do. Okay, so ultimately, so to get this song to number 1, America should create a short playlist consisting of all versions of Thriller. So what I mean by that is, the song Thriller from the Thriller album, or the song Thriller from the History album, or the song Thriller from the essential Michael Jackson's album or number ones or wherever. So, create a playlist of all versions of Thriller except the Immortal version. The Immortal version will not count because that's considered a remix. Remix songs do not count towards the actual, original song when it comes to streams. And really just stream the hell out of it, because now we need to mix other songs in the playlist as well as to avoid what would be considered loop play. So, this is considered bot behavior and would negatively impact the campaign, or would, what that means is that you can stream the song, back to back, 100 times, and maybe it only count like 4 times because, their systems are getting a lot more sophisticated to pick up on, bot activity or whatever. So participants should also use multiple devices to stream and download the songs if you can from multiple devices. If not, one device will get the job done. Do not use a VPN, okay? Do not use a VPN, and do not listen to the song on mute or just have the song on repeat over and over. So, if you're in an environment where you can't have like a lot of noise, or you don't want to listen to the song a million times or whatever, that's fine. Plug in some earphones, put them in your ear, or and then put it on the desk or whatever, and just let it play. Let your playlist play. Now, also, you may from time to time want to interact with the songs, like pausing it, resuming it, while it's playing, whatever. But I also want to talk more about that playlist. So the playlist, if you want to be a little bit more diverse, so like let's say you have the Thriller song from the Thriller album as the first song that plays, and then after that, maybe from that same album, you want to play Human Nature, fine. And then maybe right after Human Nature, you want to add the Thriller song from, the History, first disc or whatever, which I know is on Apple Music. I think it's on other, like Spotify and so on and so forth as well. But if you want to do that, then do that. And then maybe, add They Don't Care About Us after that, or whatever, right? So that's essentially how you're going to want to compose your playlist or whatever, which I think would be pretty, a decent way to compose it. It's Michael Jackson. It's his music. You're not going to get tired of it. So there you go.
Nice. Okay, real quick, because let me go back to the question, and then there's this, and so the webpage is called thriller40.com. That's where you would find the challenge. So Thriller40, so Thriller40.com, and then /challenge or is that forward slash? Is that backslash?
Forward slash.
Okay. So let me say it again. Thriller40.com /challenge / and it's on there for you guys to see. And the international fans, the way you really can help is with radio requests. That's one of the things. I know that's something we're going to bring up as well, but just in general, there's a lot. Spreading the news, spreading the challenge is something that we need help with, getting American people to take notice. We're going to do some stuff probably at the party as well, to raise recognition for that. If everyone does what we need to do, we can get it out there to the point. Hopefully, radio stations will take notice and find it fun to join the challenge to see if they can help in some way. It really has to be something where people kind of were like, "Oh, that sounds cool. Let's try and get Thriller to #1," where they feel like it's something achievable that they might help contribute to, and we might actually get outside people that aren't, Michael fans even participating because they want to be part of something cool or interesting in that way that might break a record or will break a record. Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me get back to the question. You know what? Now what? Oh, okay. So we already skipped the what Americans can do because that was that question. International. So do you have anything else to add to the international fans?
Yeah, just a couple other things. So, like Todd said, international fans, they can call radio stations here in the United States, which, by the way, all that information can be found on the link they showed. International fans, they can also visit radio stations, a local radio stations, like a .com or whatever as well. Now, one disclaimer when visiting those radio stations, some radio stations may require that you enter a zip code. Some of you, you guys may be more familiar with it being called a postal code. And do not enter your postal code, but, if it requires you to enter your, postal code or zip code or whatever, just go ahead and find another station or call them. If you call them, that's fine. Like they take requests over the phone without, needing to confirm, your individuality or whatever. Ultimately as well, fans, like fans should still be streaming and participating. International fans should be participating just as hard as the United States fans because ultimately, all streams will continue to keep Michael Jackson as the world's most number one streamed solo legacy, artist of all time, and it'll also help, increase his certifications. Now, when I start talking about certifications, I can't stop. I'm not sure if I want to go down that rabbit hole right here now.
Yeah, we might have to bring you back for the certification.
Okay, all right.
So, I can't stop either. I'm fascinated by it too, but I know where I'm going with the time thing. Yeah, that stuff fascinates me. But yeah, it will help on those numbers too. In that every bit helps in that way, and we're living in a world where metrics mean something in that way. So just the fact of the matter that Thriller streamed whatever the number is, that's going to be a big number, and that's going to be a number that the industry takes notice of. And it's also, in a polite way, a middle finger to every doubter or every person that wanted to cancel Michael. It's showing his music stronger than ever, and the fandom is stronger than ever as well. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry, I almost cheated. I had an answer. Okay. It's coming up right here. Yeah. Okay. So, what are the dates of the Thriller Challenge?
So the days of this Thriller Challenge are from October 28th through November 3rd. Also, everyone, please visit the website that Todd has shown us here. Thriller40.com. That is Thriller, like the Michael Jackson album, the number 4, the number 0.com. There are links to the streaming parties that are there. There's places where you can buy the songs listed there as well. There are streaming links, and there are also radio stations with drop-down boxes that already have the phone numbers listed there for you to call. So you don't have to go hunting on Google or whatever to find that, right? It's a one-stop shop. So if you guys haven't visited that website yet, definitely visit that website. And side note, like I stated there, some radio stations may have an online interface to request songs as well. So, I don't think that the website, at least not at the present moment, has like a link to that radio station. But if you see the radio station there, then Google that particular radio station to see by chance if they do have a website. If they have a website, you can skip the calling, because I know how people are about calling in the 21st century. Like they would rather text or do something online. I get it. That's fine. You still have that option available to you as well. So, Tosh, back to you, my friend.
Yeah. No, I mean, look, I got caught up reading the comments, and I always say, and it sounds like a broken record, but I'm still gonna say it because I don't really care. But one of the things that I am so proud of, or just in general, is just my uncle has such amazing fans in that way, and the reason I'm here doing this live stream is because I had the benefit of being around him so much, and I know his love for the fans, and if I didn't think it was genuine, if I didn't see it was genuine, I wouldn't be on this live stream trying to talk to you guys, trying to I shouldn't say trying to, I don't like that word either. Getting his Thriller to number one. Like, I wouldn't be wasting my time in that way because I personally would have been like, well, this guy doesn't deserve it because he's not good to his fans and whatever. But I've never seen, and I've said this plenty of times, I've never seen my uncle uh, neglect the fans, not appreciate the fans, not love the fans. And that's out of my whole life. I've never seen him not appreciate you guys in that way. And I think that's so unique. He could be in the worst mood or so tired, but you guys gave him that energy and that life and that love that I've never seen it since in that way. I know a lot of artists that say they love their fans, call them, certain things, but and some of them might, in that way. I can tell you just from firsthand knowledge, it was never something where he would say he loved the fans and then get into the car and be like, "Oh my God, it's overwhelming." He never complained about that stuff. You know, he loved you guys and he loved and appreciated. I think that's the key word I would say. Appreciated you guys and never looked at you as dollar figures. It was never about. It was about the love and the connection. It was never about the money of the fans. Of oh, I got to be nice to them because they can pay for the. It never was that. He looked at you guys um, as friends, as some of you guys ended up becoming with him in that way. He looked at it as people that he cared for. And I always tell the story of the one time heard him really raise his voice in public was when someone driving almost hit a fan and he got furious. That's how protective he was of you guys in general. And I'm proud to say that as someone related to him in that because you guys have always had his back and he always had your back in that way. And that's why I'm here doing this is because he's no longer here to speak for himself, but I can tell you stories and stuff like that in that because we all know it hasn't been the easiest journey and the media has made wanted to make the fans feel like they were at a place um, weird, different, psycho, whatever you want to say. They've labeled us everything in that way. But I will say the one word they don't use is loyal, and that's the word that the fandom is in that, and not even just loyal. It's that undying love. It's and it crosses and we won't talk about it because we're all from different backgrounds, but it crosses different races, different genders, different political. It crosses everything. His music crosses everything, and he loved everyone in that way, and he was a uniter in that, and that's why we spread this music, is because that's what his music did. It united people, and I've always said that that's what was missing in the world when he passed was the world. I said the world got darker, and it did. And instead of people stepping up and filling in that gap, and people took advantage of it, and that's where we're at now, and that's one of the troubles that we are now. And I do believe by celebrating Michael and the more of the world celebrating Michael, he will unite even more people because a lot of people I hear stories of a lot of people becoming friends through Michael, getting married through Michael, even people on the different sides of political, becoming friends or at least understanding each other through Michael. And I think the more that happens, the more that will be the case. And so, and everyone has a story. I mean, he saved me, in that way of when my mom died, and he was one of many, but he really swooped in and made sure that I was okay, and my brothers as well. And that's why I'm eternally grateful to him in that because this is someone that was probably one of the most busiest people in the world, and still found time to make sure his nephew and nephews were okay. And really, I will never forget that. So that's kind of the idea. I mean, I don't know. Let me see. Let me go back to the thriller challenge. But that I'm I want to make sure we don't forget anything or miss anything. But also, I've tried to be wary of everyone's time because um, I'm also cautious of that because I can talk a lot, and I know you can talk a lot too, Andrew. You know, in that way. But this basically was kind of just a precursor in terms of what thriller challenge was, why it's important, why we need to do this, who we're doing this for, and basically for everyone else that doesn't live in America, what can you do in that way, and why should you participate in it? And I think that's kind of why we decided to do this live stream. And I know there was questions about the project that I could answer as well. And then again, if people didn't hear the answer of the project right now is anticipated for 2023 release. That's the goal. That's always been the goal for a little while now in that way. And there's nothing right now saying that goal isn't achievable. So that's the goal that I'm aiming for. That's the goal that I feel is realistically possible. And as Andrew said, that doesn't mean January 1st, 2023, because I know there are people that will say, hey, it's 2023, where is it? But I also, as I joke, you guys have been extremely patient too, which I don't think many people would have been in that way. But I will tell you, um, there's, I hate saying this because it sounds egotistical, but I just know there's certain things like, okay, I'll say this. I could tell if someone was going to go to Neverland, I could hype it up for as much as I wanted to hype it up. And I knew that they still wouldn't be disappointed when they went through those gates because as much as I tried to hype it up, it was still more magical than what I had described. I'm very cautious with this docuseries of doing that because I don't want to overhype it. But at the same time, I can tell you that what I'm aiming for is I'm aiming for something special. I'm aiming for something that only someone that truly knew Michael from all those decades could do in that way. I'm in a unique position, and you guys have put me there. The state has put me there in terms of they allowed me to do this. The family has put me there because they have given it a blessing in that way. So I'm in a unique position that I realize I'm in a unique position. I'm in a unique position because my uncle and we worked on talking about films and stuff like that. So I know kind of his mindset on certain things. If I was in charge of something else, I would be guessing kind of, oh, maybe he wants this or that. But having spent so much time and decades talking to him about film and dissecting movies together with him, I kind of feel like I know what he would have loved and what he wouldn't have loved in that way. And so I'm kind of channeling that as well, that energy. And and trust me, there's on this project to keep me honest as well. And that's one of the reasons I want to be in my own vacuum where I feel like I'm doing great and everything like that in that because ultimately it's for you guys and the public. It's and yes, you guys do know everything or at least a lot of everything. So I do have to have some surprises to make sure it's entertaining for you guys, but at the same time you have to remember the general idea is to educate the public so that we don't have to sit here on Twitter, re-educating people, anymore. It's just common knowledge. So that's the goal. That's what I'm planning on doing. That's what, if I could fast forward a couple of years from now, that's what would be the benefit of it is, okay, that's been put to bed. Now we can just celebrate the man for who he is in that. So that's the idea behind it. Andrew, do you have anything else in terms?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing here. I hope this finally puts to rest from a certain anti-MJ troll farm that Taj and we are two different people.
Oh, really? They thought we were
There's him, and here am I. We are two different people.
even though we're wearing hats and
right.
I could put on glasses right now. We could
Oh,
look very
God. Yeah, I'm in my Clark Kent disguise, is what is going on.
We are wearing black too. Yeah.
But also I want to say this because Todd, you won't. Um, Todd never really talks about really how busy he is, guys, because like he just comes from such a humble background that, like, talking about himself and the things that he does or whatever, he thinks it's braggadocious type of thing, whatever. Sorry, Todd, but it's the truth. Now, he behind the scenes have accomplished so much. There are so many people involved with this project, but at the same time, like he keeps his eye on the project while still doing things for the Dee Dee Jackson Foundations. That's of course the foundation that he and his brothers founded. And believe it or not, he also goes about, is it a weekly podcast, Todd? Every week.
Oh yeah, that way. Yeah, for the family.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
he does
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and here lately he's been dealing. He's been working on a charity event, which is pretty much what the Thriller Night events are. So he's been working behind the scenes on that, and that is something that you just don't do in a couple of hours and then you're done. That takes weeks of planning. That takes physical effort. That takes a complexity. Like your mind has to, you have to suspend your your belief in order to accomplish some of the things that Todd accomplishes at these thriller parties. And he is I tell you what, like the first time I talked to Todd, he was an absolute brother. He was a friend that I never knew I needed until that first conversation. And it is something that I think that the everything that Taj does behind the scenes, like he's done so much, I can't even say it here. I just can't.
I don't know if you're allowed to say certain things. But,
yeah, I'm not. I'm totally not.
I thank you for the praise. I'm not used to it in that way, but thank you. For me, the whole reason of doing all those other things, extra things, even the thriller nights and stuff like that. Yes, it benefits the Dee Dee Jackson Foundation and Hill Los Angeles in that way. But the way I always look at big picture stuff, just the same way the Broadway play by everyone going to that helped was an endorsement to Michael in that way. I look at this same thing with this thriller nights, us celebrating Michael, his music. That's like a big middle finger to the media, who is also going to be there in that way. They're going to see Michael celebrated. They're going to see Thriller 40 celebrated. And as they should, as the world should, because what they really try to do was make it seem like we were a minority and really we're the majority. And we have to keep reminding them that. They know it now because if you see the numbers of what certain things do, but they have such a great stronghold on the media that it makes you feel like you're isolated. Like, oh my gosh, am I the only one that thinks he's innocent and all that stuff? And it's like, no, the world thinks he's innocent. There's a select few that keep barking that he's guilty, but they have agendas and they bank on him being guilty. It's almost like it's part of their salary to make him guilty in that way. And so that is what I also want to do is there's little things here and there that I participate in because it's part of the bigger picture in that way. Because it all adds up to Michael's legacy and people knowing, not finding out that he's innocent, knowing that he's innocent, and where we are all at right now as fans. You can't tell any of us about his guilt because we're educated, we're factual, we know the whole story, the whole backstory and stuff like that. That's where the public needs to be in that way, and they will get there. But that's we have to be patient too, because not people don't change overnight in that way either. Yeah, and sorry for cutting you. It's weird when it's not weird. I shouldn't say that but yeah, I've worked a lot behind the scenes. In a personal matter, I've battled with high blood pressure, which I've never done in my life. But leaving Neverland, that was a gift that they gave me, in that way, where I have to take pills every day now for that reason. Um, but it's on the what's it called, decline aspect of it. I'm doing better, but there's stress involved in anything that we do in that way. There's stress with you guys in terms of defending Michael because you care about it, that aspect of it. It's no different for me in that way. I don't pretend to be a superhero because, but I pretend to be stronger than I am. I am strong. I'm very strong, but I'm still human, just like my uncle was in that way. And so things do get to me, but I can tell you, I've never felt alone because of the strength of the fans in that aspect of it. And you guys have been so tremendous that it's almost like I do feel like a superhero because of you guys in that. So saying all of this and before it gets too mushy and all that and that stuff, um, I this Thriller challenge super important. Let's get Thriller to number one where it should be, the single, and on the Hot 100. Let's make that a first in terms of many because there's other songs that I'm looking at too. I'm not gonna I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but there's other songs in his catalog, let's just say, that it's a crime that it's not number one. And so I have that idea too, but this is the blueprint. Let's get this number one. Let's make this happen for him. And then because October is his month. That's the month Thriller's going to be played. People are going to dance to it in that way. Let's get that to number one. Let's make that happen. And then let's end the year with a bang with the Thriller 40th, celebration, whatever, and the docuseries project, whatever I can give you guys as teasers and stuff like that. That is going to kick up, by the way. I'm not going to be so secretive in that. People that I've talked to already know that, but you guys don't know that aspect of it. But I'm someone that likes to build up. It's just I also have to be careful of the timing of the hype as well. So that's where we're at with everything. Super thankful that you did with your expertise. I have my kids upstairs crying.
My dog's barking.
Yeah, your dog's competing with their crying in that way, and so I need to get back to being a father, which is kind of my inspiration behind all of this. As some of you don't know, one of the reasons why I took my foot forward in terms of when Leaving Neverland came out was because I looked at my daughter Taylor, who was 2 months at the time, and I said, "This ends here. This lie ends here. She's not going to grow up with this lie anymore. I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to make sure that when she grows up, Michael Jackson is celebrated like he should be. Michael Jackson is loved like he should be. I don't want to ever hear someone in her vicinity be like, oh, your uncle or your great uncle, something negative. It should always be positive. And so looking at her and fatherhood does change you in that way. I said, that's it. That's where it ends. Because I'd sat in the sidelines, unfortunately, not in my doing, because I've always wanted to be a fighter. But this is, as a father, I was like, I'm not going to subject her to that same BS that we were subjected to. And so, yes, I haven't been there for them as much. It's been a sacrifice, but at the same time, I know there's the air conditioning going on. Well, it's almost like someone's dragging me off the stage. At the same time, it's all worth it because their future will be worth it. So a little personal sacrifice for the legacy, in that way, which I'm extremely proud of, and I know they are too. So that's pretty much it. Like all I expect now is just for like the ceiling to fall down or something like that, and just be like, because it's just literally I'm hearing a lot of noise. But Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening and staying to the end. And that's it.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Take care, guys.